Good morning. I'm going to play a piece called Bisi. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it, but it's a mountain range, Bieszczady. It's a Polish mountain range with many consonants and not too many vowels, running from the extreme of southeast of Poland through Ukraine and Slovakia. So it's a very wild part of Eastern Europe. And this is by Hania Rani, who lives in Poland, and she had a particular affection for this part of nature.
Thank you very much, Karen. Welcome, everyone, to Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. It's nice to see all your beautiful faces this morning. Also, do we, Gabriel, have some folks on Zoom?
We have people on Zoom?
Do we?
Yes.
Okay, let's wave at the people on Zoom. Hi, everybody. We want to welcome everybody this morning. Okay. Summit UU Fellowship is a spiritual community deeply committed to the shared values of love and inclusion. We have no specific Unitarian dogma. However, we do aspire to the principles and purposes listed at the end of the order of service. The mission of Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. Now, please join me in reading our centering thought. Nature is an infinite sphere of which the center is everywhere, and the circles nowhere. Thank you. Now we have announcements, and Casey happens to have two.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pastor Casey Marie Pandell. I am the minister here at Summit Unitarian Universalist. Whether it is your first visit or your 5,000th visit, you are whole, you are holy, you are loved, and you are so welcome here. If you'll take a second, let's do it this way. It might have some fingerprints on it later, but this lovely little award that I have here was gifted to us yesterday at the Interfaith Shelter celebration. We are one of a small handful of congregations that was honored with the Spirit Service Award for going above and beyond for our interfaith shelter this year. That is all thanks to you guys. All of you in this room and on Zoom who helped, whether it was dropping off a dessert at 5 p.m., if it was an overnight, if it was helping set up, it is all thanks to you. You all made a huge difference in the lives of our guests. So this award is for all of you. Thank you so much for everything you do. And some of you may have noticed as you walked in today, if you didn't, that's okay, there is a table out in our greeting room that has scrap paper and scrapbooking paper and stickers and crayons and markers and all that good artistic stuff. That's for a really important purpose. Who here knows who Reverend Tom Owen Toll is? The majority of the people in this room. That's not a surprise. For those of you who don't know him, you'll see him preach in just a couple weeks. Reverend Tom is going to be moving out of the San Diego area. And I know he is near and dear to the hearts of many of the Summitarians here. So that out there is an opportunity for you to give him a goodbye gift. What we're doing is we're creating a memory scrapbook for him. So if you have pictures or notes of support or memories you would like to share, you can do it on that paperwork, and we're going to build it up in a book and give it to him when he's here on May 5th. So that's 2 weeks. I know it's a little short notice. Someone had the great idea this week, Joanne. Swanson provided us with the paper, and we're just really excited to have a fun little project to give him. So feel free to take it home with you. Just remember to bring it back. And that's everything I've got. Do we have any other announcements today? Wunderbar.
Okay, now for our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land upon which we reside is unceded and part of the long legacy of the Kumeyaay people. The spiritual traditions and enduring sovereignty of the Kumeyaay are the first that we acknowledge from this land, and we honor the continuing presence of the Kumeyaay Nation. And now we're going to have the chalice lighting, and I'm going to read that while Pastor Casey lights for us. As surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. We join here to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to know ourselves, to be at home, here on earth, under the stars, linked with each other. Now, our UU hymn and aspirations, so please stand if you're able. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. Please be seated.
Our reading today comes from Laura Horton Ludwig, entitled Earth Day Prayer. Spirit of life, spirit of earth, spirit of all that breathes and all that is, we love you. We love this planet and its people and its beings. We love this interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. We love it all, and we want it all to be well and blessed and healthy. But we are human, and as we are people, our hearts are still small. So often our love and our sincere desire for the well-being of all is not yet enough to restrain our collective desire for ourselves. More money, more power, more things. So often we act in service of that desire for more in ways that harm our fellow humans and the countless beings with whom we share this earth. And so often, even when we do otherwise, we feel powerless. The problems are so big, the scale so enormous. What can one person or one small group really do? But today, let our prayer be for hope and commitment to stay in the struggle, to do what is right as best we can every day, and to love you, spirit of earth and ocean, stars and rocks, beings of every kind, not least our human neighbors. To love this glorious whole as we love ourselves. For we are you, and you are us. Blessed be. Please rise in mind, body, or spirit as you are able to sing our first hymn, number 38 in the gray hardback hymnal, Morning is Broken. If there was a mistake in the text, it was my fault. Sorry. Every week we take some time to share the joys and concerns that are held by those of us in this community and the friends around us. Joys and concerns can be emailed to me or texted to me throughout the week, or it can be handwritten up near the chancel on a Sunday morning. Whether you share aloud, a candle is always welcome to be lit as you are so moved. I have all joys today, which is kind of a nice change. Rin shares his joy, saying, "As I leave for my turn on the Camino de Santiago, I am taking with me the offered help, suggestions, and goodwill of so many friends and colleagues here at Summit. I will put these to good use and celebrate you all as I wander, knowing that I have a loving place to return to." So thank you, Rin. And so this is that kind of exciting time of year for our faith as a whole, where if we have ministers going into new ministries, this is where they start finding out. 3 of my friends this week have been announced as candidates, which means the future settled minister of their congregations. Angeline Johnson up in Davis. We have Josh Berg at Palos Verdes, and we also have Alyssa Lee at Wilmington, North Carolina. And they are all wonderful ministers who are going to do really wonderful things for our faith. So I'm excited to be able to share that with you all. And we know that not every joy or concern in this room is spoken, whether big or small, glad or sorrowful. We hold you in our thoughts. And I would like to invite Mary Carter Vale for our Time for All Ages.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it working? There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, it's Earth Day weekend, and it is also the weekend before Passover. No, the mic is not on. Is it working now? Is it on? Nope. Let me try it again. Hold on. I think I have a dead battery. Whoop. It's working now. Let's turn it down a little bit. There we go. Is that okay? We got the balance? Okay. Sorry about that. Technical challenges. It's always something that makes it fun. I'm going to be sharing a Passover story with you, the story of Passover. This was from Parents Magazine by Holly Rizzuto Parker. And it is a Passover story that's friendly for kids. Now, I do have some props if anybody wants to come up and see. We have what's called the Seder plate here, and some matzah. And we can take some of this back if to RE if folks want to taste. You guys want to come up and see? So you can see the Seder plate. Let me hold it up properly. Come on up. You guys can see there's food up here. You can look and see. We'll explain all of the things. So the Seder is part of Passover, and Passover is an 8-day celebration of the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt. And there's a whole story that goes with this plate. See the plate? So these are the foods we're going to talk about, but then there's also all these little animals around the edge. It's kind of a fun way of showing all the plagues that came to the Egyptians. No, they're not called fun. But I'm going to put the plate down here so you guys can look at it while I read the story and see if you can find the different things we talk about on there. You do? Very cool. So the Passover celebration starts with this meal called the Seder. And the meal is a very important part of the process because the meal is the storytelling of what happened, of why this week is celebrated. So over 3,000 years ago, a wicked Egyptian king forced the ancient Jewish people, the Israelites, to toil in the heat, constructing bricks and constructing buildings and carrying massive bricks. He gave them little food and sleep, and his soldiers whipped them, and he didn't pay them. And they were so upset, they didn't even have time to play with their kids, have fun with their families. And this king was so mean that sometimes he even killed some of the children. It was really awful. So one Jewish mother was afraid of her infant son, and she put him in a basket and floated him down the Nile so he would be safe. And she would miss raising him, but she wanted him to live. And that same Pharaoh's daughter found the baby in the basket and took him in and raised him and named him Moses. And she became his second mommy. So Moses was safe and became a prince. And when Moses grew up, he discovered who he really was, and he worked with God, as the story goes, to free his people, the Israelites. In order to punish Pharaoh to free the Israelites, God sent a series of 10 plagues to Egypt. The water turned to blood, frogs swarmed everybody, then there was an itchy lice infestation. Wild animals roamed the cities, and the cows all died. People got sores all over their skin. And then there was a hailstorm and swarms of locusts, or giant grasshoppers, that ate all the crops. And the sun went away for 3 days. But that stubborn Pharaoh, he continued to be mean, continued to cause harm. So finally, God had no choice but to intend to kill the firstborn of both man and beast. To protect themselves, the Israelites were told to mark their dwellings with lamb's blood, so the angel of death would pass over their homes. And after this devastation, the Pharaoh finally relented. "Go! Leave!" he yelled, and the Israelites were happy. But mistrustful of Pharaoh and afraid he would go back on his word, they quickly grabbed the dough before it had time to rise and followed Moses into the desert with only this matzah to provide sustenance. That's what this is. This is a matzah. It's an unleavened cracker, kind of like a saltine. We can try some later if you guys want to. So on the 7th day of their journey, they came upon the massive Red Sea, and they were exhausted, and the water was too vast to swim across, and their hope was shattered because they couldn't turn back, and Pharaoh's army was chasing them. And that was when the glorious God gave Moses the power to part the waters by raising his arms. Think Charlton Heston, parting the waters. Parting the waters, exactly. And the people walked through across the sea, and then when the soldiers came in, the waters closed back over them. Hopefully they could swim. So for the next 40 years, the people traveled in the desert looking for a place until they finally found a place to be. And the Passover dinner, the Seder, is how we tell this story in a meal. I love a meal with a story. It's kind of very cool. So I want to show you some of the things that would be on a Passover plate. The first would be a roasted egg. These are hard-boiled because I didn't have the roasting equipment. So a roasted egg. What do you think the egg is a symbol for? Exactly, new life, rebirth, new life. Good job. Right on that, Rocky. And then we have bitter herbs to remind us of the harsh lives. So this is celery, which was traditionally used as the bitter herb. If you've ever grown celery yourself, you can know it can get very strong. It can be very bitter. And then they would have parsley. This is parsley from my garden. The parsley would be dipped in salt water and sprinkled to remind us of the tears of the Jewish people, that they were sad. They had to leave their home, and they were sad. And then this is called, I hope I'm saying this right, haroset. This is a sweet mixture of apples and honey and some raisins, and usually traditionally it's done with sweet wine. I just use grape juice. And this is like a little apple salad that is made to remind us of the mortar, which is the glue that they had to use to glue the bricks together, building buildings. We can have some to try. We can try some when we go back to RE. And then they also would have on here a shank bone of a lamb. I don't have a shank bone. I have a little plastic ram. So a shank bone would be a piece of a bone from eating lamb, because lamb is a traditional food. It did look like a piece of garlic. But they had to put lamb's blood on their door. So this was to remind them of what they did in order to survive this in the story. And then the last one is horseradish. This is actually turnip. It looks kind of like a horseradish. The last one is horseradish, which if you've ever tried it, it symbolizes the enslaved Jews' bitter lives. Horseradish is very spicy. Have you ever had wasabi? No. The green wasabi. Most wasabi in the United States is made from horseradish. So this would be what was served on the plate. Now, when I was a child, we did a Seder. I did it a couple times. And one of the traditions for kids is to hide, the matzah is hidden, and the kids have to go find it. So it's hidden somewhere in the house, and you have to go on a matzah hunt to find it. And when I found it, I brought it back to the elder at the table, and they said, "How much do you want to give back the matzah?" I got a whole $1. It's very exciting. And then my sister was mad, so she hit it again and got another $1. So, so that is kind of the tradition of the Seder plate. And we're going to take this back with us so you guys can taste at least the apples. Don't think you want to taste the horseradish. Okay, I do have some chopped horseradish if you want to taste it when we get back. So, yes, it's very, very spicy. So, we will do that with lots of water. So that is the story of the Seder.
Water just breaks the sparkle in your mouth. You need milk.
This is true. Milk or sugar will help with the spicy. So, it does. It does. Yes. So we're going to do our song, the Do Re Mi song,
Then we can go.
and then we're going to head back that direction. Would anybody like to help me carry something? Okay. There's lots of things to carry.
I'll carry the matzah. I'll carry the matzah.
We can share.
We can both
You can each take a bowl, and let's sing the song. Okay. One each verse. Let's go back to the door. Let's go out that door right there. We're going to go all the way back to that door. I'm going to grab my keys. Four, and search for what is true. Five, all people have a say. Six, work for a peaceful world. Seven, let's go all the way back down the hallway here. Ooh, you're going to ransom that matzah for $100, huh?
That was fun.
You're going to ransom it for Pokemon cards?
Mary, your mic is
All right,
on.
let's put everything on the table. Let's move the fidgets. We'll move the fidgets over.
At least we know whatever she says is going to be appropriate.
I didn't put anything in the special box today.
And now please rise in mind, body, or spirit as able to sing hymn 1073 in our teal softback hymnal. I lost the title of it. The Earth is Our Mother. There we go. Oh. As with every week, I always appreciate everyone giving it their best and singing new songs. I've been asking Barbara and Karen for their help in picking music that you're familiar with, because I don't know what you're familiar with. So I appreciate Karen and Barbara coming in every week and helping us find some really interesting things in our hymnal. Please join me in a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection as I read Earth by Mark Bellatini. This is our earth. It falls through heaven like a pearl in a glass of plum wine. There are no other earths that I know of. There are no other skies that we have mapped. This is our earth. The oneness who gave birth to it remains nameless. There was no midwife then to bring us word of the birth cry. We only rejoice that it is. This is our earth. Ice caps its head, glaciers clasp its feet. Warm wind, like the breath of a lover, breathes around its breast. Mountains thrust up to the clouds, bringing joy. Storms blow across its shores, bringing fear. Silvery fish capture sunlight and bring it down into the deep as on the shore. Valleys spread the ripening fruit. Cities teem with the poor and the disenfranchised in the shadow of golden towers. Children live and also die. Highways throb. Monks sit in silence. Mothers work. Crickets chirp. Teachers plan. Engineers design. Fathers write letters. People marry with and without the blessings of the law. People cry. They laugh and brood and worry and wait. This is our earth. There are no other earths. Before its wonder, philosophers fall silent. Before its mystery, poets admit their words are shadow, not light. And all the great names religious teachers have left to us, Ishtar, Shenkna, Terra Mater, Suchness, Wakantanka, Gaia, suddenly they refuse to announce themselves. And so we too fall silent, entering the time where words end and reality begins. So may it be, and amen. The earth is what we all have in common. Wendell Berry, novelist. Berry's words are simple, straightforward. We know that each of us today in this room, on Zoom, have much more than just the earth in common. It's not unlikely that we share similar beliefs on social justice, on politics, on our faith tradition. Berry's point is more than just us as Summit, as Unitarian Universalists. Across faith traditions, across generations, continents, and countries, everyone has their own story. And even stories of similarity are still different. The one thing we have, without a doubt, across all of those things is Earth. We are all born here and live and love and die here. It is the one thing that connects every single human being and does so without judgment. Our seventh principle is as follows: respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. There's some really juicy, deep reflection in that. It's acknowledging that we are a part of something bigger, much bigger than ourselves. And the bit about interdependence acknowledges that we are far from alone in our living, which is fantastic, but kind of feels a little cold. What does it mean to be a part of something? The Unitarian Universalist Association website has a section explaining our 7 principles to children. And I almost wish that was our principles in general. I wish they were always offered in those terms. See, we Unitarian Universalists are pretty cerebral. That's to say, we can be a little in our heads and not so much in our hearts. Our language is not always accessible, and I think sometimes in our flowery, often highly educated way, we miss ways of deep connection. But reading our principles in language meant for our children who are learning and growing and changing is very clear and very to the point, unlike me, apparently. But it really draws a big picture. It states, "We believe in caring for our planet, the home we share with all living things." And that's really the heart of our principles. The earth does not in any way require humans to live here. But since we do, and boy are we lucky to, it becomes our responsibility to do so meaningfully and sustainably. Today's sermon is entitled Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And you might be wondering where such a silly title for today's sermon came from. But if you're a comic book fan, you probably recognized it pretty quickly. Earth's Mightiest Heroes is just another name for the Avengers, a group of beings who protect the Earth and the universe from absolute destruction, typically by some villain or other. But what if we, the average, everyday human, what if we're the villain? What if the Earth needs protecting from us? Suddenly, Earth's Mightiest Heroes doesn't sound so silly, does it? We should be stewards of this planet, yet the generations that have come before us, while making incredible leaps of science, technology, and living for humans, those previous generations have also caused close to irreparable damage to this place that we call home, this one grand, beautiful planet that nourishes and sustains us and every living being on it. How can we look around this place that we get to live and not want to do better, to be better? It's our only home, after all. There is nowhere else for us to go. Why do we have people looking to the skies, trying to find a viable home amongst the stars, when we have one right here that we already share? We know it's not just about us. Being stewards means caring for the least of us, those who have nothing to offer us. And that ties pretty directly into our very first principle. All living things are worthy. That means not just the least of us humans, but doing our part to assure that every blade of grass, every little gnat, every branch, every tadpole has a healthy, whole place to live. I know that's a tall order. We can't just cast a spell and poof, everything is perfect. Climate change is but a memory, and the earth is cruising around the sun full speed ahead, like none of the pain and destruction that humans have historically inflicted ever happened. But there are meaningful things that we can do together and apart to start paying our dues and living into our 7th. Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. Chief Seattle, Suquamish and Duwamish chief for whom Seattle, Washington is named. During my internship, the former director of religious education at that location and I were having a conversation about her other job and spoke about the students that she taught, high school students, and the things that those students care about. Kids are aware, I remember her saying. They are way more woke than we are. They care so much, and they can help keep us on our toes. I'm a firm believer that children, adolescents, and young adults all have something to teach us. There's a wisdom that they have sometimes that I think the older we get, the less we are able to connect to. The kids have less barriers in their daily lives and can see very clearly the things we may not. I think about Greta Thunberg, whom many may know from her scolding of the United Nations in 2016, proclaiming, "How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words." That moment was far from Thunberg's first protest, and she did not become an eco-activist on the scene out of nowhere. She's participated in numerous climate strikes from as young as 15 years old, but even younger than that, she spent 2 years researching and educating her parents on the ways that they could best lower their carbon footprint. From not flying, which is a pretty major feat when your parents are internationally respected artists, to becoming vegan and upcycling whenever possible. Now, those of you who have had children, who may be grown or still have children now, imagine sitting with your 13-year-old child after watching them struggle with depression and living into their autism spectrum diagnosis, which includes selective mutism. Imagine hearing their passionate discourse and actually listening to your child about the changes that you could easily make to help ensure a healthy home for their future. That gift of leaning into Thunberg's wisdom was a glimmer of opportunity for the next generation of climate activism. But she is one young person. And unfortunately, I don't think it's a mistake that finding the names and photographs of young activists from the global south, whom Thunberg has stated have contributed least and will suffer the most from climate change. I don't think it's a mistake that those pictures and names are almost non-existent. After a very deep internet deep dive, I am still no better versed in the young climate activists beyond Thunberg, particularly those of marginalized identities. Whether that speaks to ageism and brushing off how adults can sometimes view the concerns, passions, and fears of the younger generation, or if it's the underlying racism of a society steeped in colonialist history, or maybe a bit of both, I can only guess. But it's a good time to remember that we as humans do not own the earth. We just live here. And we make decisions today that can and will impact generations to come. We have a responsibility to make change where we can, by voting for politicians who work for climate action, reducing our carbon footprint in small and large ways. When we tend to live our lives as business as usual, we erode the opportunities for our next generation to thrive. The choices we make today may have a small impact on our daily lives. Sure, summers are super hot and winters are weirdly cold, and in our case, very wet this year. But that affects us far less than food scarcity due to climate change may affect our following generations. And it's not just the kids our choices affect. Wildfires, massive snowstorms, increased intensity of hurricanes, continued deforestation, these things impact every aspect of the web of existence. From domestic pets to endangered species to melting ice caps and polluted waters, our choices change the world, for better or for worse. Mother Earth provides for and cares for us, and over the centuries, humans have taken, and there is only so much she can give. I was speaking with my colleague, the Reverend Dr. Kent Doss, not too long ago, and remember saying, "Mother Nature cannot protect herself from us," to which he responded with a scoff, "Oh, yes, she can." And while he's absolutely correct, what I meant was she cannot fix the things that we have done anytime soon. Repairing the neglect will take years, no doubt more like centuries. She can't ask us to stop. We know climate change is her reaction to the harms that we have done. Like a fever killing off the virus, this is the response she has to protect herself. She doesn't need us, but we sure do need her. Let every breath, every word, every step make the Mother Earth proud of us. Amit Ray, author. Not to sound like a Debbie Downer, but we know that our actions matter. We believe and know as Unitarian Universalists that all things are connected and all things rely on each other. But how do we live into our principle of the interdependent web of existence? What actions can we take to make Mother Earth proud of us? How do we faithfully live out our end of the bargain in spiritually fulfilling and practically useful ways? I know full well how critical environmental justice is to this congregation, and I and many of you have hopes to see us become a green sanctuary in the none too distant future. According to the UUA, only about 30% of our congregations are fully certified as green sanctuaries. So we know it takes intention and it takes work. I also know how meaningful big changes like installing solar panels and eating less meat is for some UUs. These are in themselves no small feat. My father is a roofer whose company deals in solar panels, and after 3 years, I still can't get him to put them on the house. But every change helps. These changes help live into the commitment of our seventh principle. But something to note, however, is that not every UU, or indeed every person, is capable of making the same choices, and we must be aware of the various inequities, social and physical locations, and barriers which indicate the choices that we can make. For example, for highly complicated medical reasons, I require the consumption of a large amount of protein on a daily basis. Upwards of 90 to 100 grams a day of complete proteins, which means all 9 essential amino acids. But the gold standard to achieving that goal is animal or whey protein. It's possible to do as a vegetarian or a vegan, but it requires a lot of planning that a 40-plus hour a week minister maybe can't do very well. And medically and financially, it's not the most feasible choice for me. I have a remarkable amount of guilt around it, and not just because I feel really terrible about a living creature becoming my meal. So I seek out other ways to reduce my impact, and I don't denigrate myself for the things that I am unable to do. As many of you know, my in-office hours are only 2 days a week plus Sundays. That's by design. I don't drive anywhere if I don't have to. I work to not be wasteful. I will reuse clothes and plastic bags until they fall apart, and I have so many reusable bags, including the fun collectible ones from Trader Joe's, that I could probably open a museum. It won't change the world, but it changes my immediate one. And that is a worthy start, folks. So let's pretend for a brief moment, go with me on this journey, that we are brand new to the practice of sustainability. What are some things that we can do that may be more accessible for a wider group of people? We know that public transportation in California is severely lacking. Many a drive from Anaheim to San Diego since moving south. I wish there were a better way than me, the pups, the car, and the 5 freeway for 2 hours. We know that food choices are based as much on financial ability as physical necessity. Many of our neighborhoods, many of our neighbors here in Santee cannot afford to shop organic, and plant-based diets are not always accessible. So where can we improve our impact that creates equitable opportunities or even changes that we never thought about? Columbia University published a list of 35 ways to reduce your carbon footprint. I'm not going to read all 35, I promise. And many of the things that they suggest also appear on a list from the United Nations. Buy local and in bulk, trying to be mindful of food waste. So get creative with those leftovers, even if you don't like them. Wash your clothes in cold water if possible, and try to upcycle rather than buying fast fashion, which is mass-produced and cheaply made. In general, if you can, buy less. Turn off your lights if you don't need them in every room in the house, and try to use energy-efficient bulbs. Try to ensure that your car is in good functioning order. Properly inflated tires and proper maintenance can increase fuel efficiency by 7%. And at $5 plus a gallon, I think that's a pretty good one to share. Don't fly. And if you must, fly economy and try to do so nonstop. Each of these changes are meaningful, small ways that just about everyone can make, from our youngest to our elders and everyone in between. I know that these changes made by one family, by one person, will not end climate change or any of the dominoed effects that it has caused. We won't save our beautiful blue boat home simply by nixing plastic straws and single-use everything. We know that big corporations are responsible for more damage to our world than any single human could ever create. But one family making changes can inspire another, just as we hope that any of our ethical actions as Unitarian Universalists will do. These small changes are things that we can and should be proud of. They take commitment, intentionality, and care. We enjoy superhero stories because we see ourselves in their triumphs. But we do not need stories to be triumphant. Our actions, like the Avengers, will never be perfect. But they are still worthy, they are still good, and when all is said and done, we can be solaced in the knowledge that we have truly become Earth's mightiest heroes. So may it be, and amen.
It's time for our offertory now. If Summit is a valued community in your life, please support us by making an offering today. If being asked to think about what we can each do to make Mother Earth happy is something you value, please drop a few coins in the plate. Our Zoomers are invited to contribute to our virtual plate. The link can be found in the chat box. And as always, we acknowledge our stalwart pledgers who monthly support Summit and help us keep our doors open. And now we will gratefully accept your generous donations during the musical interlude.
And please join us by rising in mind, body, or spirit to sing our closing hymn, 1064, in the teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home, which is kind of like Sweet Caroline, but for Unitarian Universalists. A few weeks ago, I preached about Eid al-Fitr, the end of Ramadan, and I challenged you all. You can all be seated, it's okay. You guys can just sit, you don't have to wait to be invited. I challenged you all, or invited you all, to take some time to think about some spiritual practices that could enhance your soul and connect you to the earth. What a great way to connect to the earth, by finding ways to serve her. Maybe that's planting a butterfly garden and helping our flora and fauna flourish. Maybe that is inviting friends in for a meal together on Zoom, which maybe doesn't feel super exciting after 4 years on Zoom, but worth trying. Any of these ways that I mentioned today, I know do not sound like the most fun ways to enrich your spirit, but I promise you, if we find ways to serve our earth, we are finding ways to serve ourselves and our souls as well. Amen, shalom, salam, namaste, ashe, and blessed be. Go now in peace. May the light within you be a blessing to the world.
Our closing words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please join me in the closing circle song.
After which we'll have a 5-minute break.